and it's finally 8 o'clock. It's dark. We've both got a cup of tea, haven't we, Jacqui?
We do.
Yeah, we know that a lot of you have probably got something different.
I'm drinking herbal because I'm with a nutritionist, so I thought I'd better drink herbal tea.
You normally drink normal tea at this time?
Yeah, I do.
Really? Oh, you won't after the end of this conversation, I tell you. It'll be herbal tea for the whole evening. Well, everyone, thank you so much for taking the time this evening to join us. We are absolutely wrapped that you are here because, where you could be so many other places right now. You could be partying out. No, you could be staying at home. So we're very, very pleased to see you. We thought we'd just start off by just doing a little introduction, just letting you know a little bit about me. If you're not on my page normally, and Jacqui will do a little bit of an intro about her so we can kind of get to know you a little bit. And then basically we have got 10 questions, the top 10 questions that both Jacqui and I have been asked on Facebook, on our TV stuff over the past week, and we're going to be going through those questions. Both Jacqui and I are a little bit geeky, so we've both written notes. So if I've
never written notes before like this, but I thought I'd better for today.
And just to let you know before we start that Jacqui and I are not normally used to only talking for 45 minutes or an hour together, so this might go on.
I know. We thought we're not used to sharing the screen. We're normally used to getting the time on ourselves, so we're going to be good.
We are going to be good. This is a new experience for us. So, anyways, for anyone who is new to my page and hasn't kind of met me before, I'm Claire. I have I trained back in the UK as a dietitian. Flipping heck, in the year 2000. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I originally worked in hospitals in the UK, and I came over here 15, maybe 16 years ago. Started working for Diabetes New Zealand. That was my first job, and then things just kind of grew from there. I was coming for a year, and then I stayed for a lot longer, as you can tell, because it's so beautiful over here. But I basically started a private practice called Mission Nutrition by mistake out of my living room when people started to come and ask me questions about nutrition. So I started doing that, and that was about 14 years ago. And now I've got a team of 20. So I've got dietitians and nutritionists throughout the country who run workplace wellness programs, see clients one-on-one, normally face-to-face, but we also do Skype and lots of them at the moment. So I've been doing that for a while. I've written a couple of books. So I've got, this is when I was a lot younger. This was after no children. This was after one child, 2 children. Got to make one tonight. It's all right. And so I've written a couple of books, and I've worked for Healthy Food Guide magazine for 15 years. I used to work in professional rugby, which was the most amazing job ever, to be paid to stand in changing rooms and make guys who have just been doing lots of sports drinks. That was a great job. So I've done a lot in the sports world. I've done a lot in, and how I know Jacqui now is because we do TVNZ together. So that's a little bit about me. And I'll now hand over to Jacqui to tell you everything about her.
Hi everyone. And for those that don't know me or hadn't found me in the social media world, and that's because I'm new to that, I've got a very established LinkedIn network, but the Facebook, Instagram is new. So I've had lots of prods for a long time to do it, but this kind of period in time has brought me actually off my parental leave because I felt this real draw to being able to share useful information for people at this time. As soon as we kind of got some level of understanding that we were going to go down into lockdown or isolation, for me, that was absolutely we need to be looking after our mental health and wellbeing. So I've come off parental leave really after having my first baby girl who's 7 months old, and have started doing things like Facebooks and Instagram. So I'm a registered clinical psychologist. I trained in Otago and Wellington across both campuses. My early clinical career was spent mainly with youth. So I worked in a child and adolescent mental health service, and I also worked for a youth one-stop shop called Kapiti Youth Support, where I really enjoyed that, and I had kind of 10 to 24-year-olds. So that was my kind of clinical time working there. For the last 5 and a bit years, I managed a corporate wellbeing company, which would go into organisations support resilience and mental health in organisations. And I worked with that company and helped grow it, and that was then acquired last year. So they're now on a new path of growth in New Zealand. And for me, really, I've had 6 months off of being with my little girl and fully enjoying that. And now just starting to really come back and do this kind of work and support some private clients. So that's me.
Exciting times, isn't it? Yeah. I know, to be working together. It's funny because Jacqui and I normally, when at TVNZ, I might see you on the TV screen while I'm sitting in makeup and vice versa. But Jacqui and I have actually never met, which is so weird because the last week we've been speaking non-stop, and we are very excited when isolation is over. Jacqui and I are going for a wine. That is on the agenda. So tonight, like we said, how it's going to work, we've got our top 10 questions from you guys. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas and your problems and your challenges, because we hope to really give you some practical solutions and ideas to help fix some of those, or at least trying to manage it, because we know how difficult this is. And this is such a strange situation because there's, it's affected everybody completely differently. And there's, Jacqui and I, we're in one situation, or we've got juggling full-time jobs here. I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old who are running around just driving me crazy. Because I'm like learning some new patient skills that you're probably needed, and that kind of side of things. So that's that situation of the juggle, the not getting enough sleep. And then there's other people, I know who'll be watching who have got their job is probably safe, but you're at home with absolutely nothing to do, and your structure and your routine, your motivation is just gone, and you can't see anyone. Maybe you're living by yourself. Like, that is a really difficult situation. And we also know that, there's some of you out there on the front line going out every day, having the stress, the stresses and the strains of having to do that, and then come home and wash your hands 300 times and then get back in. And then, obviously there's those of you that will have lost your jobs, and we feel so much for you, and, sending you so much love, and we are here for you. And that's what Jacqui and I want to do, is want to help you all, whatever your situation, with some solutions. So I'll kick off really with the first question. And just to let you know, because we love comments and we love your ideas, that we've got a couple of prizes somewhere. Here they are. So I've got a copy of my diary, which is like a planner and a journal, and it's got inspirational quotes, and where's my screen? There it is. You can tell I'm new to this, can't you? Inspirational quotes planners in there. Jacqui, what have you got somewhere?
I am giving away a month of Headspace. So those of you that know a bit about mindfulness, Headspace is my preferred app. I really love Andy's voice. I think if you're going to listen to a mindfulness book, you've got to like the voice, and Andy's got a pretty lovely English accent. So I'm giving away a month of Headspace and a book called The Happiness Trap. And later, when I talk about kind of negative thoughts or unhelpful thoughts, I'm going to talk about cognitive diffusion. So wait when I talk about that later. In this book, The Happiness Trap teaches lots of really good strategies, basically about how to navigate life when you can't control it. There's lots of psychological theory about balancing your thoughts, etc. And this series says sometimes life is shit and it's hard. Yeah. And so how do we manage that? And The Happiness Trap is a really awesome book. So when an online bookstore can deliver that to someone,
it will be in your hands. Yeah, as soon as the couriers can get these things to you. So if you write a comment, just even if you just say hello, then we will go through them at the end, and we will pick one of the winners. And I'm going to have
we'll do our best as soon as we start our segments. We will have a look at the comments. And
we will. We are we will do our very best. So those are the prizes that we're going to be giving away, and I will start with my first question, and it is one that a lot of people have asked, basically, and it's essentially how do we manage anxiety and overwhelm in the face of crisis? Now, myself, I have had horrific postnatal anxiety, and it was nearly admitted, and I was on medication and had psychosis and things, and that was a short period of time after 2 children, and I know how horrendous that is. And I've got friends that have been messaging me and colleagues and things, that their anxiety has come back. So for people like that, Jacqui, how do you cope at this time?
Yeah. And I'm going to put myself on a timer because I always talk too much, and Claire and I have given us
I'll wait for hands.
5 minutes. So I'm going to put myself on the timer so I don't take the whole 45 minutes. I think for many of us, we are experiencing a range of emotions, and worry or anxiety might be one of those. So I'm going to talk about other emotions later, but in terms of this question around anxiety, worry is a really normal emotion to be experiencing in the face of adversity and in the face of uncertainty. It's our brain's way of kicking us into action when we need to survive or do things that will help us thrive and survive in an uncertain time. So feeling worried is your body's way of looking after you. That's really helpful. Where the line then comes in was, when does my worry turn into anxiety, or when does my worry go from a helpful signal to me to becoming unhelpful? And for me, really, I talk with people about when it becomes impacting on your life. So the worry or the thoughts, etc., start to take over and you really can't think of anything else. And also the difference between worry and anxiety is anxiety has more than just unhelpful thoughts. For example, people might get physical sensations with their anxiety. So I thought I'd actually take you through with anxiety what we learn as psychologists when we meet people that might be experiencing anxiety. It can look very different. Claire and I might both have anxiety and present in completely different ways. So it's not kind of useful to slap one anxiety label on and go, here are the tips for that, because yours might be different from mine. So we talk about formulations, which is, who are you? What's your backstory? Why is the anxiety started now? And how are you kind of fueling that anxiety, and what's keeping it going? And the model we use is called the 5 Ps. So you're all being trained to be clinical psychologists now. The first is good. Predisposing, which is, what are the underlying things perhaps for you that might kickstart off that anxiety? And maybe that's a genetic component in your family, it's your life experiences potentially, perhaps you've got a parent or grew up with a parent that had anxiety and that was role modeled to you, for example. So predisposing are, what are the kind of historic factors that might underlie that anxiety? Then there's precipitating. What's the thing that's triggered it off? And so for all of us at the moment, I imagine different aspects of COVID-19, the pandemic, the lockdown have triggered things for us. Perhaps that it's, you've seen horrific images on the news in Italy or Spain, or I saw really awful graphics in the US yesterday with trucks outside hospitals, for example. Maybe it was Jacinda standing up and saying, stay home, save lives. For me, I was very tearful when I watched her announcement. It was like, this is real. This has gone from fantasy out there to this is now invading our homeland. Maybe it's your child looking up to you and saying, but Mum, I want to go to kindy today, or I want to see my friends, or, so there are a whole lot of things I think that can kickstart off emotional reactions. And it will be different for us all, but that's the kind of precipitator. So you've got your underlying, you've got something that kickstarts it off. Yeah. Your third P is presenting. So how does that anxiety present for you? And it's really useful to think about this, and some of you might have heard me say it before, to break that down into categories. Part of anxiety is around your thinking or your cognition. Yeah. So it might be that your thinking gets negative and catastrophic, or black and white, or that you picture the worst case scenario, for example. So your thinking might get in that range. You might find it difficult to concentrate at the moment. You might find that you sit down at work or you sit down to do a task and it's really hard to get the cogs turning, and something that would come to you normally quickly doesn't at the moment. So your cognition changes. You can have emotional components to anxiety. So yes, the fear and the worry might be part of that, but maybe you get really irritable and shitty with people, or frustrated or angry. Part of your anxiety. And I know when I get anxious, and my husband, who's listening in another room, will say I get critical. For me, actually, I get really critical and grumpy, and that's actually me being anxious. Yeah. Then there's physical sensations, which might be your breathing changes, you feel sick, you get really tense, your sleeping goes up the whack, or you feel like you might have insomnia. And then there's behavioural shifts, which is potentially, I'm going to avoid anything that makes me anxious and worried. And it might feel really good in the short term, but in the long term, that actually makes your anxiety go up. It might be that I need reassurance all the time. So if we think about COVID-19, potentially that's, I think I've got it. I think I've caught it, even though I've got no symptoms, or I've just got a bit of a kind of funny little cough today, but I'm absolutely certain I've got COVID-19 and I'm driving to a testing station. consultation all the time.
Yeah.
That could be anxiety, for example. So I've written myself notes. I'm making sure I've covered them for you. So it's really useful for yourself, or if you're living with other people, to go, can I actually notice, is my general normal expected worry morphing into something more? Do some of those symptoms come up for me? Then the fourth P, which is really the most important when we come to tackling anxiety, is called your perpetuating factors. That's the thing that keeps the anxiety fed. It keeps it going. And there are a number of ways we can keep anxiety going. One is ruminating, which is I just think and think and think and think about what is worrying me and consuming me. And that actually means that your anxiety really soars. Many people think the more they think about it, they can come up with a solution or they'll solve their anxiety. And unfortunately, that's not how it works.
And that's the problem at the moment, isn't it? Because, I mean, the only stream of information coming at us all is like the same thing we're thinking about it, but we can't escape. Well, we can escape it, but we
absolutely
are not to. You know?
And that's overexposure of information. So many people will have heard me say in the last few weeks, be informed, don't be consumed. And that's absolutely about putting boundaries around your screen time and information overload, because absolutely, if you're worried about this, you need to know the essential facts, but don't overload yourself. You might also find that you kind of got some perhaps obsessive compulsive behaviours starting to start, especially around the hand washing. So if you're someone that is washing your hands all the time when you haven't even been outside, or you know, and it's like getting to the point where your hands are really raw, for example, that actually can be something that perpetuates that anxiety. I feel worried, so I feel compelled that I need to go and do this action now.
Yeah.
Also, that kind of being wired up and not getting downtime or not getting time for your body to relax can also perpetuate anxiety. So that's the fourth P.
Then that's the situation for so many people at the moment. We've just got overexposure. We've got, you know, where you're either working too much or you've got way too much time to yourself just to worry about everything that is going wrong or could be going wrong. Yeah, so
absolutely.
What's the answer?
Yeah, so the answer is there are some things that are protective for us that is really good to put into habits, and I'll talk to you about them. But it's also for you, what were the things that I said that struck a light bulb for you? Because everything I said wouldn't have rung true for you. But if you are somebody, for example, that ruminates a lot, we know in the research that writing or talking to someone else decreases anxiety where rumination increases it. Perhaps if you're someone that's a catastrophic thinker, like what if this happens? What if that happens? Then maybe ask yourself, so what if? What if I get sick? Well, so if I get sick, I would go to the doctor, they would test me. Hopefully I only have a mild case. And if I don't, then I'm bloody hell going to trust that the medical system will look after me. So what if I lose my job? Actually sit down and problem solve that out, because find the answers. If I lost my job, that would be really awful. What would we have to do? My husband and I would have to sit down and we would have to plan how we're going to get income into this family, for example. So they are some things that can help with the catastrophic thinking.
Yeah.
If you're someone that has a bombardment, how am I going with my time, Claire? Probably I'm over time. If you're somebody that gets bombarded with thoughts and you can't turn them off, a very good evidence-based strategy is to designate worry time in your day. So anytime a worry pops into your head, you go, hey, it's not time for that now. I've got worry time at 4 o'clock. And actually that signals to your brain that you've heard the worry, so it can quieten down.
Yeah.
And it then gives you time to absolutely kind of sit and worry and ruminate for your designated period of time, and contains it. So it's actually really useful for decreasing anxiety throughout your day. The other thing that is quite useful in terms of, I talked about cognitive diffusion at the start, which is I might not be able to change my thoughts, but how do I make them have less of an impact on me, can actually be just by putting the words, I'm having the thought, I'm really worried about COVID-19. Mm-hmm. I'm having the thought, life will never be the same again. I'm having the thought, I'm not going to get an international holiday for 2 years. Oh my gosh, I'm having the thought. And by putting I'm having the thought in front of what your thought is, that gives you a bit of gap. Mm-hmm. And it decreases that anxiety. I've got one more thing to say, Claire, then I'm handing over to you.
Well, exactly. I was saying that my favourite quote in the world, and everyone would have seen it 100 times on Facebook, is that when you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. Yeah. And that's exactly that. It's actually distancing yourself from you and your thinking, yes, I have to lots of work on this myself. Yeah. And it really works. It really changes because we get so consumed by what's in our heads.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're someone that's focusing on things that are big and scary in the world, I would ask you to bring your thinking back to what can you control. There's a great model called the Circle of Influence, which says when we spend all our energy thinking about the pandemic in the world, global warming, whatever it is, and we can't physically control that, it actually makes us really worried, really scared, really anxious, etc. If we can bring our thoughts back to what can I do at this time, I can ensure I isolate, keep 2 meters away from people, stay connected via FaceTime, etc. If I can bring my thoughts back to what can I control, that also decreases anxiety. Lastly, 2 things. I said I was going to stop. It's really important to get some normal in your life so your whole life isn't COVID-19. So having some resemblance of normal routine, activities you enjoy, get that in your life, and induce positive emotion as much as possible, because positive emotion is very helpful at decreasing anxiety. So whether that's whatever you find funny, joyful, satisfying, loving, you want to get as many hits of that as possible during your day. I know it's really hard and it is kind of scary what's going on in the world, but we have to just bring that back to us. What can we control? Managing our thinking, trying to do the best we can day by day, and all of those things will help.
And and even just small shifts, just one shift can be big, it's really big right now. And this, that's all that we're here to help with, is just trying to, it's not about changing everything at once, but anything that you can do to shift yourself to feel a little bit better. That's is kind of.
So it's about 15 hours of therapy in 5 minutes. So
I know.
I have to rewatch
many times. I think we're going to
have all my tips around anxiety blurbed in a very quick.
We will definitely go into detail. We'll be back on these Facebook Lives, and we're going to go into more detail and other things. So, the second question. This is a food-related one. We're going one for Jacqui, one for me. So, this is essentially what is the best way to eat, and how to kind of get yourself kind of coping during this time. And I guess for most people, your routine has changed. And this is something that I actually talked about on TVNZ, but I have 3 minutes to talk about it. And that is really difficult with food, because a lot of the way that our eating is actually just very, very habitual, which in some cases is good. Because you've got a structure around eating before you go to work, taking your lunch or buying your lunch there, and then, having kind of some kind of evening meal ready. And often people are too busy to sit down and snack, or, if your day's busy. Now, if you're at home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's lots of packets of biscuits around and not much to do, and you're feeling a bit rubbish about the world and everything that's going on, plenty of time to pick and nibble and have a little bit of this, and breakfast kind of goes from like 8 until 11, and then you start snacking, and then it kind of carries on, and then, well, I'm not going to work in the morning or can't go to the gym, so I might as well just have wine at 5 o'clock, and it's just this rolling strategy of lost structure. So my recommendation to you would be to try and get some kind of structure back into your day and into your food. So essentially getting up at the same time every single day, really, really important, and going to bed at the same time, because it really helps regulate your sleep, for one. And then with that, it can actually help you get into a routine with the way that you're eating. Now, again, I could talk about this for hours, but, we are no longer recommending, not that we are no longer, the research doesn't support getting out of bed when you are not hungry and stuffing food in your mouth just because it's breakfast time. Okay, so this is actually a really good opportunity. This is the way I'm choosing to see this situation. This is an opportunity for us to set up habits and behaviors that are really good, and that will serve us well when we are released into the world again. Okay, so we do need a good 10 to 12 hours overnight without food, and that gives your body a break. There's a lot of biological things that happen. A fast, essentially, that's a really important gap overnight. Your body needs to go through resting. So this is a good time to make sure that's happening. And that is tricky if you're a person that nibbles and picks and stuff in the evening, because then that makes that gap overnight very short. So now that you've got time, hopefully, to do this. Try and get that big 10 to 12 hour gap overnight. Very, very important. With whatever meals you have in the day, there's no right or wrong in terms of how many times you should specifically eat a day. We just know that we need that big kind of overnight gap. But it's the picking, it's the nibbling, it's the mindless eating when you're not actually hungry. So it's very, very habitual. And one of the things I've got here is things like these, even like nuts and these unsalted nuts. It's all very, very nutritious and all the rest of it. If this is on your counter, you will eat it every single time that you walk past it, probably. So if you're standing by the kettle and this is just sitting there by the kettle, while the kettle is boiling, you start nibbling on things, because you will have so much more opportunity at home to nibble now than you probably ever have. This nibbling and picking at bits and pieces can be a complete nightmare for a lot of people. So the easiest way to do it is to change your access to those foods. So the things that are at eyesight in your pantry or in your fridge that you pick and nibble at, you need to remove them or change your access to them. Wine, if you intend, like me, last week had a couple of glasses of wine a week. I don't normally drink in the week. And this week I was like, I need to get back to my not drinking Monday to Friday. And so all white wine comes out the fridge, it's not chilled. All beers come out the fridge, they're not chilled. All wine is down in the garage, so it's not there. Because if it's there and it's open and you've had a rubbish day and children have screamed and, work's gone crazy or not, you're stressed, then you're going to have it. However motivated and, you are, if it's there and it's easy to access, the easiest thing you can do is change your access to that kind of food. The other thing is, for any parents out there, this is an incredibly good opportunity to teach your children about the fact that there is nothing else to eat. And what I mean about that is that kids these days, in the nicest possible way, are very good at going, I don't want to eat that. And then we make them something else. And then we make them something else. And then we make them something else, right? In our house, there is this rule that goes, that's fine if you don't want to eat it, darling, but there is nothing else. And there is nothing else, because they will get served their dinner again 2 hours later, cold, and that will be the only thing for them to eat. Now, that might sound quite hard, but my kids both know that there is no other opportunity to get, they never play the game, because there's no game to play, because they're not going to get anything else. And this is actually a good opportunity when we can't go to the supermarket every time to reinforce to kids, hey, listen, we haven't got endless amounts of food in this house anymore, and we actually just need to look after each other by just eating the food that we have. If you don't want to eat it, that's fine, but that's what you're going to get a bit later on. So this is I actually think it's a good opportunity to kind of get ourselves into some healthy habits and routines with our food side of things. So that's question 2. Dear goodness, I don't know if we're going to get all through these all 10 in the time. We're going to try. So that is the food side of things, and we're going to go back to the mental well-being side. So one for you, Jacqui, an easy life hack for boosting your mental health in lockdown and keeping motivated. So for anybody that's lost their life mojo, what do they do?
Well, I think the motivation is a really interesting point. And the question is, what are you trying to be motivated about at the moment? Is that motivation about keeping your health habits up, motivation about keeping engaged with work when you're not sure about your tenure and what that's going to look like with your employment? Is that motivation to keep calm with your children, for example? So, when we look at those easy mental health and well-being hacks, your foundation is eating nutritious food, sleeping well, exercising daily, getting relaxation, practicing getting positive emotions, etc. When we think about motivation, what's really important is that if I'm intrinsically motivated to do something, it is going to go well better than extrinsic motivation. Basically, what that means is if it lines up with my values and I want to do it, I've got a much better success rate than relying on monetary rewards or external rewards. So, for example, perhaps I want to do really well at my job at the moment. I'm probably going to be very motivated to do that if I want to do well for my job, because I love my family and I want to put food on the table and keep a roof over my head because I value family. That is going to motivate me more than I want to keep my job to get my paycheck, or where's the emphasis, for example. Or I want to start, my goal to share with you, as I said to my husband, by the end of this lockdown period, I am going to be able to run 5K because I used to do that before I had a baby, and I want to get back to that. The running, though, for me, I will be motivated because if I exercise, I stay calm, and I stay calm with my daughter and my husband, and I'm a nicer person to be around. That is more motivating to me than I want to start running because I want to lose weight or etc. So what's your intrinsic motivation to start your habit or to start your behavior? Then if you are wanting to implement really good behaviors, there are some really key strategies around forming habits, which is add in behaviors, don't try and take them away. So add in regular meal times rather than just taking away snacking. So I'm going to eat 3 good meals a day rather than I'm going to stop snacking, for example. You're more likely to keep to what you can do, planning it in that way. So how many meals should people be having a day, Claire? Now we're not snacking. 3.
Yeah. Those three. Yeah, three good solid meals. Yeah.
So add in, don't take away.
Yeah.
Start small and specific rather than being global with your thinking about what you're wanting to add in. So I'm going to start running my 5K, or I'm going to try and work really hard on this project rather than just I'm going to get fit, for example. When you're trying to add in behaviors, keep yourself on track. Be kind and gentle with yourself. We're all human. We are in extraordinary circumstances at the moment, and many people have huge amounts of stress and strain on them. So if you stuffed up today, it didn't quite go to plan, then just be very gentle with yourself as if you would to a friend. You know, that's okay, get back on the horse tomorrow, or yeah, it was a really tough day, but you can start again, or it doesn't mean you're a failure, or be gentle in your thinking.
Because that's one of the biggest things, isn't it? I mean, you would never talk to another person how you talk to yourself in your head.
And how motivating is that to be told that you're stupid or you're an idiot or you can't do it or you never succeed?
I do that. Yeah,
I think that's motivating.
Yeah, this time, particularly when people, you've got so many different things to deal with and all these different emotions to deal with, then you do behave in ways that you wouldn't normally. And you then feel like, oh my goodness, what is the matter with me? But like you said, it's just being a bit nicer to ourselves and realizing we are human. This is what part of the thing, isn't it, particularly with social media. And one of the reasons I was so keen to have this chat is because what people see of us in that world, even if we try and be as open and honest as we possibly can, it's still a filtered version of life. And I think that, shit happens. Shit happens outside of this. Shit happens. People have terrible days. But that's not, we kind of have this warped perception that life is now all going to be sunshine and roses and that's the ultimate goal. But it's actually being able to deal with the day-to-day adversities of life. Right? Yeah,
it's resilience and well-being. And I suppose we all need a team. We are social beings. So if you want to stay motivated, who's in your corner? For a better word, and it's not a particular favourite saying of mine, but who's your cheerleader? Who's going to do it with you? Who's going to champion you from the sideline? And, outside of all of this, talking about staying well, keeping healthy, etc., my kind of underlying comment to that is have realistic expectations in this time. Don't set out to change the world. Don't set out to flip your life upside down right now. It is actually a time for taking stock, being kind and gentle on yourself and prioritizing what is most important. What's most important for you right now might be going to get in the bubble bath and read your book. That might be more helpful than something else, for example. So what is going to keep you calm? What is going to keep your frontal lobe in check? And what's going to keep you getting on with the people that are in your bubble, because we've got a long time, another 4 weeks, I think, now of getting on with the people in our home. So that really needs to be the priority.
Yeah, totally. Doing the best that we can. Someone asked a question. I actually read a question. I'm quite proud of myself. Around if I wake up in the morning, it's a food related one. Sorry, just to flick back to that. If I don't wake up in the morning, I'm not hungry for 3 hours. Should I eat? No. Wait until you're hungry to eat. The only thing I would ever say about that is if you don't eat for 3 hours in the morning, and then that means that you're super hungry still at like 10 and 11, and then you're not hungry in the morning because you've been eating so late, then yes, I would just kind of learn to shift it, eating a little bit more forward. But if you are finishing your dinner at, your last meal at 8 o'clock and you're not hungry the next day and, until 10, don't eat until 10. Like, it's fine. It's about getting the nutrition that your body needs in that time. So one of the reasons why the whole breakfast thing kind of is even a thing is because actually a lot of people that eat breakfast generally have better habits and routines, generally smoke less, generally are more active. So it kind of paints the picture that people that eat that breakfast is the answer. It's actually the quality of the food that you eat when you start eating. That is, what food are you eating in the window of time where you are actually eating? That is actually what actually matters. Not stuffing food down yourself at 6 o'clock in the morning because you should have breakfast. And then you feel that's just, going against your body, really. The only way, like I said, the only reason I disagree with that is if you then don't eat breakfast. And I do meet a lot of shift workers or busy people that don't have time for breakfast, and then their first opportunity to eat, they are starving hungry at 11 o'clock. The only thing available is a scone and a coffee. Like, if you are going to be a person that chooses to eat when you are first hungry in the morning, you need to, when we're allowed out, you need to pack a healthy breakfast to take with you. You need to make yourself a bircher muesli. You need to pack something or know what you're going to get, because the problem comes if you are doing that, what you eat out. So the reason why some people do eat better when they have breakfast is often at home and it's in their control. If you're choosing to eat later, you need to take that food with you. So you need to be quite organized with that. But it's actually about a lot of this, and it's the same, is getting back in the rhythm of your body, like getting back to your bodies. Our bodies are actually amazing. And I have worked, so my dad's a doctor, my mum's a nurse, my brother's a pharmacist and anaesthetist. I come from an entirely medical family, right? I have been working in hospitals since I was 15, scrubbing floors, and I was an auxiliary nurse, and I did all sorts, and I worked in nursing homes for years. And the one thing I understand about the body is it is flipping amazing, and it is so good when it is able to do what it is meant to be doing. The problem is we live in houses with artificial lights and we don't go outside enough. The problem is that we live by alarms and we use devices that kind of keep us up to the middle of the night. Like, that is actually part of our problem, is we are not designed to be living how we're living. And our biology is fighting that. So that is, one of the most important things you can do right now. This is a later point, but I've come to it now, so I'm going to go there, which is actually one of the best things that you can do for yourself in terms of your routine with your mood and your sleep is, as well as getting up at the same time, expose your eyes to light without sunglasses on for at least a good 20 minutes every single day. Now, that when you're feeling a bit rubbish and you're feeling like, I just can't bother doing anything, like and it is quite easy just to stay inside. It does not count if you're behind a window. You have to be physically outside. Light has to hit the back of your retina to tell your brain to make the hormones that make you feel good, to make serotonin makes you feel good, and it also suppresses your melatonin, which makes you feel sleepy. It is your natural light is what we are all, one of the main things that regulates the rhythm of our body. And if you are at home, you actually have this opportunity now. When you went to work, you might not have had this opportunity. Please use it. Use this opportunity, because it is one of the biggest things that you can do to get your body back in a natural rhythm and a natural cycle. Caffeine and alcohol screw with your sleep, right? They don't. So they don't stop.
Reduce adrenaline.
Yeah, they don't stop you from going to sleep. But when you are asleep, if you've got a lot of adrenaline going around your body, and alcohol produces toxins that your body prioritizes the breakdown because it wants to get rid of them, right? It's a toxin. It actually compromises the quality of your sleep. So in one of my books, I've got like a graph. I'm going to draw it now. It goes like this. Don't even know if I can do it. Right. Here we go. There you go. A wave. So you start at the top here, and then you go into deep sleep, and then you come up and you light sleep. These are about 90 minutes long, these sleep cycles. When you have too much caffeine or alcohol close to the evening, you go, skip it, and then go up. You actually skip this deep sleep. I mean, it's way more complicated than that. But I mean, essentially, your body is kind of skipping this deep sleep, which is restorative and incredibly important to keep you well. So it is not that you could, if you could, I don't know, put your hands up, comment if you're a person that can have a cup of tea or coffee before bed and still go to sleep, right? If that is you, It is not that I'm worried about. It's the fact that when you are asleep, you're not going into deep, restful sleep. Therefore, when you wake up, you need tea and coffee or other stimulants or sugar or whatever to keep you going. It's this vicious cycle. So caffeine has a long half-life. So if you have a cup of tea or coffee at 7 o'clock in the morning, at 7 p.m. at night, there is still a quarter of that caffeine in your system. Okay?
I'm Claire. I'm now being your timekeeper because it's 20 to 9. Tell us. Tell us what are the 10 things we should be buying at the supermarket that we're not.
We should be buying, well, decaf coffee, herbal teas, because those things, it's easy to go to the supermarket and everyone's going to buy loads of wine, loads of coffee, right, and lots of biscuits. But what we need to be buying is things that are actually going to keep our bodies working right. So I'll whiz through my quick list. Oats. Rather than buying lots of flour, buy oats. You can make porridge, birch and muesli. I've got an oat loaf that I'm going to share. Eggs, a million things you can make with eggs. Omelets, frittatas, heaps. If you on my page, you'll basically see, or my Instagram story, my Facebook story, everything I ever eat. So you'll see that I eat lots of eggs. If you are worried about your yogurt kind of not getting fresh yogurt, powdered yogurt, frozen fruit and veggies, because they can, if you're running out of fresh, lots of vitamin C. Seafood, so getting mussels are super cheap. They're full of iron and zinc. So when you go, pick up some of those if you like mussels, very good for you. Pulses, lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans. I'll share this list with you later, by the way, everyone. Nuts and seeds, unsalted, good of protein, good fat. Fermented foods, now the time to get into sauerkraut, kombucha, stuff that gives you your bacteria in your belly a good dose of goodness. And rather than just relying on bread, get yourself some whole grain crackers. So those are some top tips on the food front. I'm going to hand over to you now, Jacqui, on keeping yourself well when you are working at home.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm sitting at my husband's desk in our living room, which I have to share with the 7-month-old and I during the day, and how we navigate that as a family. So, our lives have turned upside down, really, those of us that are working from home, aren't they? I think there are lots of practical things I could sit here and tell you, and I think you probably know them. Schedule out your time, have routines, make sure that you get up, have a shower, and put some form of clothing on that resembles work clothes. And I tell you that from a personal point of view. Before I had Orla, I spent 5 years working from home, running the company I worked for, managing that before I had Orla. And sometimes I would look at the clock, and I had been up on my emails from probably 6:30 till 11 in my pajamas, and I hadn't got dressed because I just was absorbed and focused and working, and it would be like, oh my God, I've got a meeting in half an hour and I'm still sitting here in my pajamas. So in terms of looking after yourself and getting recovery periods, etc., your routine at the start and the end of the day is really, really important. Get up, have a shower, get dressed, then sit at your desk. Make sure you oscillate and get breaks throughout the day, because if you're anything like me, you might find that you find it very difficult to take breaks when you're working from home. Or, on the other hand, you might find that there's a huge amount of distraction, and then you need to schedule work times before you get the break. So we can have different ends of the spectrum there, especially at the moment with children at home, etc. So I think there are practical things that you can do to help with work. But for me, in the conversations I've been hearing from people at workplaces, in terms of your mental health and the impact on your mental health, I think your expectations around what you're outputting at the moment need to be reflective of our current situation, and employers need to be reflective of the current situation. So the quantity you put out is probably not going to be the same as when you went to work and did your job there. When we are managing home, life, parenting, remote working, getting onto servers, systems not working properly, managing things over chat, etc., rather than being able to just turn and have a quick conversation with someone, life will be different trying to manage from home. So adjust your expectations, be flexible and kind with yourself. I think really from a psychological point of view, think quality of output rather than quantity. And if you're unsure around where that sits, have a conversation with your team or your manager, for example, around that. Or if you're trying to manage your home life, if you're with a partner, sit down and actually plan how you want to spend this lockdown and what you want it to look and feel like. The feel is important as a family, which might be you schedule time with the kids where person A works and person B is with the kids, and maybe you need to put a signal up for the children on who's on duty during that time, for example. Or physically separate yourself in the house so that when you come into, and we're not a good example of this as I sit in our living room because we only live in a 100 square metre house and we don't have any other options. But if you have space to put the office somewhere else, do it, because then when you get changed out of your work clothes and put your gym clothes on or your comfy clothes on and come into your lounge room, you feel like you're coming home again. So all of those things help you psychologically feel like you've got some routine, some structure, and feels like you're working together as a team at home. If you are a solo parent managing working in home, my heart goes out to you, because it must be really, really tough to do that. And I've had a lot of questions from people around, how do I get recovery? How do I get a break? How do I get my exercise if I'm solo parenting and I don't have someone to share that load with? And I think as best as you can, join your kids in with you. So if you need to do a mindfulness recovery, get the kids doing it with you. Put on the app and listen to it together. If you want to go for a run, get the kids on a bike to come with you, or ensure you have good sleep, or try and get your kids into a really good sleep routine so actually you get your evenings to yourself, for example. So, be kind to yourself, and expectations, really, as you hear me say lots through this time, adjusting expectations. If you're normally an A-class perfectionist, you might need to adjust and go, actually, I'm not a superhero. I am just a normal human being, and I might not be on top of my game at the moment, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is about communicating what you can and can't do, right? Like, so I have found at work, so in our life, my husband's working 9 to 5. So I now work from 5 a.m. till 9 a.m. And then I do like an hour in the day, and then I do like 2 hours at night. But I've actually figured that I've been working too late at night, and it's just, going against everything that I've been trying to do. So I've actually just said to everyone, listen, I'm now going to, and I can do this in my job. I know that other people can't, but, I'm now working all Saturday and half a Sunday. And it's made clear when people are asking me for things, like the earliest I can get, I will do my absolute best, but the earliest I can get that to you is then. So everybody knows what to expect. They know what to expect of me, but I'm doing something that is actually semi-achievable, because it's not, you can't stay up till midnight and then still get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning and then expect to be able to deliver. So, but as soon as people understand where you're at and you say, this is what I'm doing, how are you managing it? Then you kind of, and I think everyone's so understanding at the moment.
And I think compassion for each other will get us through this time. We need it for everybody, because who knows what's going on behind someone else's closed door, whether someone's losing a job or managing fear around parents that might get sick, or they're an essential worker on the front line, or it is having compassion for people and communicating. And I'm just saying, Melanie, you've asked, it's really tough to take those breaks. Melanie, you're asking. Yeah. And what I would say to that is, a break doesn't have to be a 15-minute walk.
No.
A break can be, I switch work tasks, so I actually give my brain a break. It can be, I get up and make a cup of tea. It can be, I FaceTime a colleague and have a face-to-face conversation, because oxytocin then gets released and my body recovers for a little bit. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm off tools and I'm out for 15 or 20 minutes. You can actually oscillate and get breaks. And
have a phone call and go outside, because you're getting your sunlight in your eyes. Have a glass of water, do those kind of things, at the same time. I've just seen also another couple of questions on quite a lot of tea questions. So just in terms of, because it is, everyone's like, oh my God, I've been drinking tea all day, what am I doing? So it's fine, I drink tea, I'm British. You'll see if you follow my Instagram story that I drink tea all the time. But I drink no more than 2 cups of tea a day. So coffee, couple of cups of coffee, couple of 3-4 teas, depends on the strength, depends on the brew. It's all complicated. I'll share links on that. But it's just keeping it to the earlier part of the day. There is no set time, like it doesn't need to be 12:01 that, oh my goodness, the wheels are going to fall off if it's after that. But it's just earlier on in the day, like before lunchtime's better, keeping it to a couple of cups. After that, decaf or herbal teas. Someone asked, are there any herbal teas that are better than the others? Just make sure that some of the fruity teas are black tea based. So just be aware that...
Is my licorice tea okay?
Your licorice tea is fine. I'm on licorice tea as well.
Oh, good.
meant to be. See, it was, yeah. Licorice tea is really good. Red bush, someone else about red bush. That's all good. So just that honestly will make such a big difference, because one of the things now, if you are eating foods that are not particularly, that you enjoy them for 5 minutes and you're like, oh, I really just didn't want to eat that. Like, I just feel yuck. And then you are not having quality sleep because you're probably having more tea or coffee because you've got more time than you did before to make them. And then, then you don't sleep as well. And then you're worrying about everything, it all compounds, right? So it's just these small little changes, being aware of what you think about the herbal teas, the exposure to daylight, a bit more structure, just to eat some of these basic things can kind of keep us in routine. So on that, actually, one of the things is this stuff, the old this and this. I've had a lot of questions from people saying, my consumption of these essential items.
I've got 10 blocks in my shop today.
See? Oh my goodness.
To last us for the whole lockdown. I've had it for chocolate.
Oh my God. But one of the things is, and this is this is from my personal experience. So I have had, I won't go into it. I'm very, very dysfunctional eating. This is how I got into this job, right? I've had dysfunctional eating since I was 6, ended up with anorexia. I had bulimia for years and years and years. That's what ended up making me move to New Zealand to completely change my life. I was horrendously depressed and suicidal in the UK. Got my stuff, decided moving on to the other side of the world was a good idea. Apparently my life fell apart and I managed to rebuild it. Anyway, one of the biggest things for me was I used food to manage my emotions for my whole life, forever. I wrote 2 books on it, from mostly from the nutritional point of view, the bit of the angle of that. But this is something, Jacqui, that people are struggling with now, and I, using these strategies to deal with how we're feeling: booze, chocolate, food. How do we fix that?
Yeah. Well, that's about emotion regulation, really, is at the crux of it. And like I said at the start of this Facebook Live, many of us will be experiencing a whole range of emotions. And what I haven't mentioned today, that's my dad. Great advice. You work so well together. Hello, Dad. I read an HBR article this week which actually spoke about many of us potentially are feeling grief at the moment. Grief that the world as which we know it is currently not here. What does that mean? I know for me, I felt really sad this week, and I felt sad for my daughter that I can't take her to the pool. She gets the most delight out of swimming, and she's stuck here with me all day, which I'm sure is fine, but she can't go on play dates, she can't swim, and what kind of world is my daughter going to grow up in? And there's some kind of catastrophic thinking for you. But, that sadness, grief, bargaining, if I do this, then I'll be okay. Actually, potentially many of us are in that cycle at the moment. So whether it's the anxiety, stress, distress, etc., there's some really key things that are useful about emotional regulation. And for my own graph, and I don't have a pen and paper at the moment, if you picture a bell curve, that's the shape of our emotions. They start, they have a peak, and they get intense, and then they dissipate over time. And some emotions will have a little sharp bell graph. Some of them will be long and kind of less intense, but emotions come and go, and they're there to give you information. They're again, a survival mechanism. They're trying to tell you something. So I think it's really important to be able to tap into, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What information is it giving me? And what is it wanting me to do? And I think for many of us, we have formed unhelpful habits, whether it be eating, drinking, etc., to try and kind of dampen that emotion without really going, why am I feeling this way and what can I do about it? In terms of if you are feeling distressed in the moment, some useful things are to do a grounding exercise, which means I'm moving my awareness or attention from inside my body to outside my body, because the more I focus internally, the bigger the emotion gets. Grounding is as simple as this. I'm going to sit in my chair and I'm going to say, what are 5 things in the room that I can see? What are 5 things that I can touch and feel? Because actually, if you all put your hands on the surface in front of you, for me, it's a table. The table is cool. And if I focus on that shift in temperature, it actually calms me down because it gets me out of my body and out of my head. What are 5 things I can hear? What are 5 things I can smell? So using your senses and grounding you is a very helpful distress tolerance tool. There is an acronym called TIP, which says, can you change your temperature? And changing your temperature helps regulate your emotions. And usually it's cool or cold temperature. It might be you go and have a cold shower. It might be you run your points under cold water.
That's so interesting, because do you know what? The one thing that stopped me, sorry to interrupt you, is that the only thing that could stop me from binging was to take myself to the shower and have a cold shower, because you can't eat in the shower and you're wet and then you have to get dry, and it's enough,
and it's distraction
to create a gap yeah, that is so interesting. I was but there you go, that's why it worked.
One is distraction. So distraction is helpful, and distraction is different from avoidance, because avoidance is a not helpful emotion regulation strategy. Yeah. It makes it bigger over time, but small distraction is useful. The cold temperature activates your vagus nerve. So you have a nerve that runs from your brainstem to your heart. It controls your parasympathetic nervous system, your relaxation system. When you get whacked by cold shower, cold air, it activates that and releases oxytocin, which calms your body. So T, change your temperature. I, intense exercise. So exercise can be helpful to distress tolerance. And P stands for paced breathing or progressive muscle relaxation, whichever P you want, but that's changing your body. So diaphragmatic breathing, paced breathing, calms you down, signals to your amygdala you're safe and can calm. Progressive muscle relaxation does the same thing. If you tense and release different parts, muscle groups in your body, it again helps relax you. So TIP is a useful emotion regulation saying.
That's amazing. That's so,
intense exercise, paced breathing. I know it's like 4 minutes to 9, but we might just keep going.
No one's going to. It's fine. We're not on the time, so we can talk for an hour and a half if we need to. Make yourself a cup of tea, everybody. Come back.
And I know that sounds funny, but tidy house, tidy mind, cleaning and organising is actually a really useful emotion regulation strategy. So for me, if I've had a bad day or overwhelming day, the first thing I actually do is clean our house, and it makes me feel calmer. Or you might be a list writer, for example.
Yes, I'm not a cleaner. I would like to be a cleaner, but I like ticking boxes.
Yeah, well, it's that organising, right? If you're with somebody else and they are not themselves, they're irritable, they're grumpy, they're in distress, trying to reason and have a conversation with them in that moment will be pushing shit uphill.
Yeah.
It's unhelpful, because they are in their amygdala, they're in their fight or flight emotional brain, they're not in their frontal brain, which helps them think clearly.
Yeah.
So if you're with somebody else, give them space, offer them a multi-choice around what they might find useful. Would you like to go for a run? Can I make you a cup of tea? Yeah. Do you want to play a board game? Offer them things that induce positive emotion, but don't sit and try and have hard conversations when someone's distressed. You need to let them come off their curve and then have the conversation. I think it's important that we keep an eye out for people in our bubble and people we're talking to at work or friends we're talking to about how they're going, because people are going to find this period very, very challenging. Yeah. You've got friends that live alone. If you've got friends that have got underlying health conditions, you've got friends that are living in marriages that aren't happy or family dynamics that are tricky, like being stuck in an isolated bubble is going to be tough. So keep out your eyes for your loved ones and the people in your life, and occasionally do the check-in. How are you? Are you feeling okay? Do you need anything? Because our usual ways of supporting, being physically there for people, are not there at the moment. So
and people are coping in different ways, aren't they? I mean, and some people withdrawing when they, it's just kind of, we just got to do the best that we can. And I think this is one thing that has actually come out of this, is that because people have just been so busy being busy and running around doing everything, now everyone's going, I actually just really want to talk to that person that I haven't spoken to for ages, and how's that person?
Or I don't know what I enjoy doing, and I don't know what to do with myself, and that's distressing, because now I've got time and all I've done is work and I don't know what I enjoy or whatever it might be.
And maybe that's an opportunity, to say, hey, well, this is actually, rather than being scared by that, like, this is a situation that I've been kind of talking my dad through, who is in the UK, has been in isolation for weeks and weeks and weeks over there. He's got cancer, so he's can't go out. You know, he can't do anything over there. He's actually, and he's all his external, everything that he does is external. He plays music and is in choirs and is really struggling with that. Mm-hmm. And it's actually trying to set him up with an activity to be to purposeful and you know, enjoying that kind of his own company and his own space. And it's scary for people, but it's a skill that actually is a really good thing for us to learn, isn't it? Is actually to be, this is a time for us to get to know ourselves a bit better.
It is, and that was going to be my final comment for today, but it's useful to weave it in now that yes, it's time to get to know ourselves, and it actually might be time to take stock and reprioritize what's important in your life. You know, for me, my family's in Wellington, and it's been very apparent for me that they're not close and they're not here. And, you know, that makes you really think about how you want to live your life and where you want to live your life and what's been in those decisions. Yeah. I also think with people around you at the moment, keep in mind the people you've known for a long time. If someone is out of sorts or they're rude or they're grumpy or just keep that in context, you know, that actually you might have known this person for a long time, and remember the person you know, not the COVID-19 version of the person you've got right now. You know, and actually that helps you keep compassion when you're managing with them.
Yeah, particularly. And it's hard to know what's going on in someone else's life, like, you know, because it's just, we all kind of cope in different ways. So our last point, there's so many things. We're clearly going to have to do this again, Jacqui, but the last point was just a couple of tips on for anyone with kids really on parenting and I guess how to kind of navigate that. If there's any tips, I'm just trying to keep my little boys busy. I've never played so much hopscotch. We're going out in nature as much as we possibly can.
Nature boosts your serotonin, and your cortisol. 20 minutes of nature significantly reduces your stress hormones.
I've never ever spent so many times in the smallest square area of. I know, I think I know it under every rock now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got this new appreciation for worms. And I've spent loads of time in our compost bin looking through different things. And it's amazing. You know, we've been doing nature trails every single day, looking for 20 different things, 20 different red things, 20 different yellow things, 20 different pink things. But I mean, I guess probably one of the things is that this is probably a very stressful time for some children. If you're feeling anxious, they feel anxious. So just to wrap up, you know, what's a tip for
tip? I've got 2 pages of notes, Claire.
You see, that's why I said tip, because I know that you and I could talk for 3 years.
Okay, I'm going to just read through them really quick because they're important.
Go for it.
Again, expectations, set them. You do not have to be the perfect parent, and your children do not have to be the perfect children during this time. Being asked to be a worker, teacher, parent, partner, it's actually not possible to nail those all at the same time. So reduce the expectations and be kind to yourself. And actually, if you're going to prioritize anything with your children at the moment, it needs to be their emotional stability. Prioritize play over telling them to go and do their schoolwork. You know, if you're in a battle, prioritize cuddles over getting locked in shitty and how we're going to manage this. So, you know, emotional stability, calm, love, you know, teaching them to bake and clean and work out a family budget is just as useful, I think, in this period of time as sitting down and doing the education homework if you're in a battle about it. Some of you might have kids that love homework and put themselves in their rooms and do it, but for those of you that can't, work as a united team in your house. So I really encourage, if you've got children old enough that can understand and comprehend a little bit what's going on, sit and as a family say, how do we as a family want to feel through this? What's our family culture? How do we want to manage this time? You know, let's remember this month, 6 weeks is a time we got to spend together, have fun, really connect, reestablish our relationships, get to know each other better, etc. You can be in control of that. You have to support your own well-being to be a good parent during this time. And it's a really cringy saying, and I kind of, I'm not a fan of it, but the sentiment is right, which is you have to put your own oxygen mask on before you can put it on, like when you're on the plane. And that is the case. If you want to be a loving, kind, caring, inclusive parent, you have to have your fuel tank stocked. So how are you going to get your self-care so that you can care for your children? Also, back to that expectations, like my neat, tidy freak that I am at home, maybe it's that your expectation is it doesn't matter if the house is messy, if everybody is getting along, conflict management, getting on, having fun, respecting each other is most important. And for those of you that are interested, and I'll put the link below, I probably in week 2 of COVID sat and looked at all the research on parenting during pandemics and parenting during kind of traumatizing, uncertain times. And it's a really overwhelming amount of information. And I thought, I need to find a way to create a model out of this. So I did. I created the CARE model, which said, you need to keep communication up through this. Communication with your family, communication with your children around COVID-19. That communication needs to be consistent in terms of your messaging. It needs to be age appropriate. So with your teenager, don't sit there and talk about your adult worries and put that on your teens. Don't parentify them. Find another adult to have that conversation with. Young children just need to know that mum and dad and the government and everyone's we're protecting them and we've got it sorted, so you can take their worries away from them. The A in CARE is agency, which is what can you control? And it's really important for our well-being that we feel like we've got agency and a sense of control in our life. That helps reduce stress, anxiety, low mood, etc. So in your family, again, create your family culture. Put in dinner parties that you can have together as a family, or cooking rosters, or board game nights, or that's within your control. R is role modelling. So yes, you need to role modelling, hand washing, social distancing, taking the government's guidelines, public health guidelines important, and you need to show that. But also you need to show your children how to self-regulate. You need to role model staying calm. You need to role model verbalizing. I feel like I'm on edge, so I'm going to go for a walk around the block, or I'm feeling quite tearful, I need a hug from you, or being able to role model that. And the E is everyday normality. As much as possible, keep as much normal as you can. So for kids, that's bedtime routines, for example, are critical. Keep them going to bed at the same time, even if they're not going to school the next day. That routine, sitting down as a family, having dinner, etc. All of that regular routine is normal. So my notes were: have family schedules and values, have lots of fun together, unconditionally love each other, and focus on the good. Positive parenting says, you might see some crappy behavior through this time, but as much as you can, self-care and focus on the good. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is also about just being real with them. I mean, I burst into tears in front of my kids yesterday, and I was just like, I'm really sorry, but and just explaining to them, being real with them, and taking them with them, and on that journey with you, because we can't be perfect. We can't hold ourselves together all the time with this, but also then just being calm with them, because all they want is you to be there with them. But you're right, taking them on their routine, keeping them active as well, because one of the things is, I've got little kids that are 2 and 5 that are used to running around all day long. And actually, if they, and it's maybe a boy thing, boys and girls, but my boys are like, literally, they wake up and they're like dynamite, like that all day. Getting them outside, they need the serotonin. They need that to regulate their sleep as much as you do, and I've started, getting my boys into fitness. If you look at any of my page over the coming weeks, you'll see that I've been sharing fitness videos, and I get the kids involved and stuff where I can. And really, if there's any tips that you want from that, just let me know, and I can kind of make some new videos on that stuff. But keeping them active. The biggest thing with exercise, which is the only thing we haven't really covered yet, is that needs to go in your routine as well, because otherwise it doesn't happen. So scheduling something in makes it more predictable, makes it a routine. And if you used to be in a routine of going to the gym at a specific time or a class at a specific time, that's obviously gone now. So if you are struggling to keep active, the easiest way to do it is to commit to a specific time of day. Link that trigger to what you're doing.
At 8 o'clock every day, you will find my husband and I with a baby in a front pack walking down to North Point.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. And it's at that predictable time. So every day I finish at 9 o'clock, and at 10 o'clock I am doing whatever. And sometimes it's pathetic, and I do 2 squats and I'm knackered. But at least it's the routine. Get your trainers out, put them at the end of your bed. Get your gym gear out. Do anything that reduces the barriers to you making that happen. I have alarms on my phone, and I have an alarm that goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning that actually has emojis on it that says, "Hello, wake up, it's exercise time." So it reminds me when my alarms go off at specific times what I'm doing, because I'm kind of like getting myself in that mode and I'm feeling good about it. So yeah, that's the kind of thing on the activity side of things.
I'm just reading some comments, Claire.
Yes.
Someone's just saying, all we're getting now is COVID alerts, shooting our adrenaline up. And I would say be in control of that. Be in control of how much media you are watching.
Oh, absolutely. I stopped watching. I'm literally allowing myself for 15 minutes a day. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I was driving myself batty and not sleeping. And I don't want to wake up and be like, oh my goodness, this many people have got it. Oh my God. And I'm just like, actually, no. Do you know what?
Informed, not consumed. Be informed, not consumed.
Yes, because that's yeah.
Turn off the time. There was one other question here. Oh, Benita, you said, I cried yesterday and burst into tears when the internet got cut off. And, you know, that comes back to, we're all a bit vulnerable at the moment. Our normal is gone. All your usual distress tolerance tricks or things that help your well-being, lots of them probably aren't accessible at the moment. So it is absolutely expected and reasonable that you're feeling wobbly and quick to cry or react, or, you know, that's your brain in fight or flight mode. And so just be gentle on yourself, you know.
Yeah, we're all, you know, we're all in this together, and that's what, you know, that's why Jacqui and I wanted to come together tonight, because we while you might see us on breakfast when they put lots of makeup on us and we have 3 minutes to kind of, you know, to have those conversations, we have days lots of days when we cry and throw our toys out the cot and work goes wrong and computers break, and you know, we've been through our own stuff to get to this point, and we just want to just share what we know. So what we would love, I mean, Jacqui and I, when we finally meet in the real world, are going to catch up properly. But if you want us to do this again, if there's other questions that you have, I mean, we've only skimmed the surface of some things. There's probably a way that we could structure the conversations. If you can add to the comments of this feed the questions that you have, things that you'd like to know, future chats, things that you'd like us to...
Let's make it a weekly date, Claire.
Yes.
Should we make it a weekly date during lockdown?
Yeah, we can chat. So you let us know our questions. Our questions? Oh my goodness, you can tell it's getting that time now. Your questions. And we can absolutely help. We will pick a winner. Just to let you know, in terms of if you are needing these, I don't know, when the couriers start doing them again, check out my website if you want to grab yourself one of these. And when the couriers are going again, we will get those out to you. If any of you've got specific nutrition questions, then my team, we're doing discounted rates on Skype consultations one-on-one. So if you're really struggling with anything at the moment around your food, like irritable bowel, 1 in 7 people in New Zealand have irritable bowel syndrome, and a lot of that can be managed through food. And
let's cover that next week.
What? Yeah, stress management. Yeah, because and what I was going to say is also it's in the, you know, the mind, the stress exacerbates irritable bowel syndrome. So if you are stressed and you have IBS, this is probably a very difficult situation for you right now. And I fully understand that. So anyway, if you need any nutrition support at this time, my team can absolutely help. If you've got any, and basically Jacqui and I would just love to know your questions, comments. I might do it in my yoga gear next time and get my old weights out and do a little exercise routine. Everyone can get in the get in the evening. But if you
someone was asking us, they haven't left their house because they think, you know, they've been staying in their garden and should they go out and walk? And yes, get out and walk, get a change of scene, stay away from other people, but still smile and say hello, but keep you 2 meters apart. But if you're not immune compromised or in the vulnerable category and you're able to leave your house to walk and get a change of scene, please do.
And it's not about getting in a car and going, it's just about if you can walk out up and down. I've got very familiar with the local driveways, keeping local, keeping where we are. But I find everyone that I've come across has been, you know, I literally only just walk up my road and back, but but people are so respectful of space. And I've really, the other thing I've started consciously doing is like doing big cheesy grins, man. I'm like, because I just, when I went to the supermarket initially, I was like, it's so weird not looking at people and being like, oh my God, I'm so awkward. And I was just, it was so weird. I actually bawled my eyes out in the car. I actually sat in the car and I was like, it's the saddest situation. This is horrible, because it was just so disconnected. And then I was like, what can I do to change that? I can do cheesy grins at people, and even if they don't look at me, I'll do it anyway. And
you feel good.
It did. And I was like, and actually, people look at you, go, we shouldn't be looking at each other. I'm like, we can look at each other. We just can't be breathing and touching
on each other. Yeah.
A smile. It's fine. I'm so going to carry on doing this. So we just got to remember to do that, because it is a weird thing trying to keep away from someone else, isn't it? But we can still use our faces, and I'm quite handsy, I've just noticed.
And for those of you that are interested in the psychology aspect for this, as I said earlier, I'm new in a professional capacity to the Facebook, Instagram world, and I'm grappling with the fact that I'm putting myself out there in that arena, but I'm trying to do that at people's requests. So I have been posting on Facebook and Instagram every day with my thoughts and articles that I've written and psychology kind of evidence strategies. And I'm a LinkedIn fanatic, so that's where I've spent most of my time, but I will come into the Facebook arena. So if you're in a workplace and on LinkedIn, I put a lot of that kind of content on there as well. So if you're interested in general wellbeing and mental health, and especially pandemic, COVID, how to boost wellbeing in isolation at the moment, you can find me. I think I'm Jacqui Maguire NZ, I think.
Well, people will hunt you down. People will find me. They'll find you. Oh, well, hey, Jacqui, it has been such an awesome evening. I can't even believe, well, I can believe where the time's gone. And I'm amazed that we've actually managed to stick to this long.
An hour 15, I think that's pretty good.
I think it's pretty good. I think we'll just set it at an hour 15 next time. Whatever. Yeah. I'm sure no one minds. If you mind, I'm sorry. But if you don't, keep the questions coming, because we'd love to do this again. So any comments, other questions, if you want us to go into more detail about something that we've covered, we can theme future chats about stuff. Jacqui and I've got lots to talk about, as you can tell. So
we'll pick some winners from this list and post it, because we'll go back and read them, and then we'll post it on the prizes. Yeah, we absolutely will. But we hugely appreciate your time, and we just hope that whatever we've shared is helpful in some way, and we hope to help you a bit more in the future. So let us know how we can help. We are here for you. We're in this together. And I hope you all sleep well tonight, and sending you lots of love. See you later. Bye. Bye.